What is going on, you guys? I'm your host, Stacey Cole Morgan, and you are listening to the Morgan Man Sports Podcast here on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Good Pod HQ, or wherever you find your preferred podcast. Here on today's podcast, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the victors of the Modern Warfare 3 Esports World Cup, the Atlanta FaZe, winning the trophy, $600,000, and what does this mean for the Atlanta FaZe moving forward into the next season of the Call of Duty League. Also on today's podcast, ladies and gentlemen, we are going over last week's matchup between the Atlanta Falcons and the Baltimore Ravens, and looking forward to the Falcons hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars in the final preseason game of the 2024 NFL season. So without any further delay, let's go get straight into today's action.
The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Welcome to the Morgan Man Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Stacey Cole Morgan. Here on the Morgan Man Sports Podcast, we talk Atlanta Falcons news, pre-game predictions, and all other news surrounding the Atlanta Falcons.
Touchdown, Atlanta!
Also on the podcast, we talk Call of Duty League, Esports, covering Roster Mania, major predictions, COD champs, player trades, and much more to get you ready for every single CDL weekend.
Scuff goes through, and Scuff stands, wins the one-on-one, and Optic with the reverse sweep.
If that sounds good with you, put on your Falcons jersey, grab your gaming headset, and let's get this show started.
The Atlanta Falcons.
All right, guys, so we are going to talk about the Atlanta Falcons taking on the Baltimore Ravens first. We're going to make this quick, short, and easy right here. So the Atlanta Falcons did take on the Baltimore Ravens this past Saturday, August 17th at noon kickoff, and the Falcons did lose 13-12 against the Ravens. But guys, even though it's a loss in the record books right now, even though it don't count, it's still a loss in the record books. I still consider this weekend right here, this past weekend, a win for the Falcons. I felt like it was a better overall team. I felt like the defense definitely lived up to a little bit more of a standard of what it's supposed to be this season. And now the offense, now if we had these two quarterbacks playing for us outside of Michael Penix Jr., we'd be in some serious trouble, really. But for the style of competition that they were going after here in this preseason, it was efficient, it was effective. Like Taylor Heineke, 8 of 16, 114 yards, averaging 7.1. Jay Paddox, 9 of 17, 78 yards, 4.6 averaging. So that is pretty good. You know, made some competent throws on some third downs that needed to be converted. And for rushing, Jay McLennan, 11 attempts, 55 yards, averaging 5 yards per rush, and 1 touchdown. And that came in at the very last few seconds of the game. And, you know, if I was Raheem Morris, I would have went for the field goal or the extra kick point, whatever you call it. But instead, and again, it's preseason, you try certain things out. If you don't like it, you move on to the next thing. So he goes for 2. Ultimately fails, 2-point conversion, and the Baltimore Ravens win again 13-12 against the Atlanta Falcons. And for the odds, you know, if you chose to spread for Atlanta, congratulations, you won some money. And for the money line, if you chose Baltimore Ravens at a -150, you win some more money right there. So now let's move on over to the Jacksonville game this weekend. Now, granted, this is Sunday, August 18th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern that I am recording this. So there's no official odds or stats, anything right now on the CBS Sports app or any other sports app for that matter of fact. But I am just giving my honest prediction right here. I do think the Falcons need to win this one right here to kind of solidify everything that they've been building towards. Like, okay, This is what we're really building towards, guys, and we want you here September 8th in the Benz when we take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I feel like this is a must win. Again, these do not count, but you want to have your home crowd excited, something that you could build upon going into week 1 against the Steelers, and tell your fan base, this is the new Dirty Birds team. We are pushing to make this a playoff and Super Bowl season. Let's win big in our final preseason game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, the Jags have been going off here recently. They won against Tampa Bay. They won against the Kansas City Chiefs. Against the Chiefs, they won 26-13. And against the Buccaneers, they won 20-7. So that's pretty good if you're Jacksonville. But they are coming to Atlanta in this one right here. So we have to wait and see what happens in that certain scenario. But I really hope, again, that the Falcons can pull off a dub in the Benz this Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern and give the fan base a little bit of a positive vibe going into the last preseason game to the start of the regular season, which will be just 1 week after. So I say Falcons win, let's just say 24-18. 24-18, Falcons win. Taylor Heineke gets a touchdown in this game right here. We won't see Michael Penix Jr., none. I'm going to sit here and honestly say you're not even going to see some of the guys you will still see. But for starters, definitely forget about it, like Bijan, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, AJ. The list goes on. So for sure, you're definitely not going to see none of these starters. But and that, I guess that's a good thing right there. It would blow my mind, honestly, if we did see Kirk Cousins just for one series. It would blow my mind for Raheem to say, yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have Kirk Cousins out there on that field for one series. It will blow my mind. It will blow everybody's mind to sit here and think, wow, okay, you just said Kirk Cousins wasn't going to play nothing this year. Well, preseason. So we'll wait and see. It is just Sunday at the time of this recording right here. So, but if not, oh well, but we'll move on to week 1 of the regular season for the Atlanta Falcons in September.
The Call of Duty League.
So now let's talk about the Call of Duty League. The Call of Duty League right here, guys, I know it's not officially like CDL, but it's still CDL teams for that regards. And let me tell you, gosh, the Atlanta FaZe came through. They came through big time at the Esports World Cup for the Modern Warfare 3 season. So the teams that did compete was the Las Vegas Legion, the Stallions, Boston Breach, Cloud9, Toronto Ultra, Carolina Royal Ravens, Optic Gaming, Vancouver Surge, 100 Thieves, and Atlanta FaZe. And of course, you did have a few other teams that made it into the Modern Warfare 3 Esports World Cup, but they all got eliminated before series of where you start winning some money, like Team Falcons, Gentlemates, Lore Gaming, G2 Esports, Toronto Ultra, the list goes on, and Team Heretics. So those teams did compete in Boston Breach as well. I should mention that. But the biggest thing is the Atlanta FaZe. The Atlanta FaZe sends Optic Gaming home. Sends them home, tied third, which they would technically be fourth place, but with the stand-ins right here, the championship points and the prize money, both Vancouver Surge and Optic Gaming both walk home with $160,000 and 275 points. But I guess somewhere in the stats right there, the Vancouver Surge does have a better overall record over Optic Gaming. But yes, Atlanta FaZe sent Optic Gaming home, tied or in the top 4. And then after that, guys, it was over with. Atlanta FaZe was going to win this tournament pretty much. Then we had a tough competition, or I say, whenever I say we, I mean the Atlanta FaZe, but Atlanta FaZe had a tough competition with the 100 Thieves, also known as the LA Thieves, in this series, going 4-2. Won the first hard point, then 100 Thieves won the Search and Destroy, I believe it was 6-3, and then the Control 3-2. Right in that scenario, and then everybody thought, oh, okay, this is where FaZe is going to start choking. Nope, it wasn't. FaZe comes strong on that second hard point, comes strong on that Search and Destroy. I believe it was a 6-1, and then Control, it was a 3-2. And I tell you, that Control, that very last Control to win the entire series was probably the most excitement out of all of it throughout the entire weekend. These two teams competed head to head, blood for blood. I mean, it was insane at the amount of fight that both these teams had. So, congratulations to Atlanta FaZe for winning the first ever, by the way, Call of Duty Esports World Cup Championship. It is fantastic to win it, and hopefully many more are to come. So now this leads to a question. For Atlanta FaZe. Where do you go from here? Where do you go from here? The off season has officially begun for the Call of Duty League, for Optic, Cloud9, aka New York Subliners, FaZe, Boston Breach, 100 Thieves, which Boston Breach, might not see them no more. Toronto Ultras, Surge, Ravens. I mean, all these teams, the offseason begins now. Where do you go if you are Atlanta FaZe? Do you stick with this roster now after winning the Esports World Cup? I think you should. I think you honestly need to stick with this roster, especially going into a Treyarch title. Because for one reason only, is the experience with the Treyarch title. You got Simp, you got Abeezy, you got Cell, who's been on this title since Black Ops Cold War. I know they've been together since the inaugural season, but they won a Call of Duty World Championship in the Black Ops Cold War season, the second season of the CDL. Then you add a guy like Draza, who can bring the trash talk, bring the positivity, and kind of like hope for these other guys. And say, all right, get your head out of your asses. Let's fucking fight. That's spectacular. And for you to solidify yourself as the first team to win the Esports World Cup for the Call of Duty, even though you placed top 6 in COD Champs, that's a huge turnaround. They've been studying film since losing to Toronto Ultra and placing top 6 in COD Champs. And they said, no, not this time. We're going to the Esports World Cup. We're winning it. And by gosh, they did. I think you give this roster one more year to play together in a Treyarch title, which will be Black Ops 6. I think personally, this will be the greatest Call of Duty season for the Atlanta FaZe since the Black Ops Cold War season. Yes, you could say Vanguard was definitely a great season because they placed top 2 every single event. And then you could go on and say, okay, well, they had an okay running with Modern Warfare 2. Because I think they placed top 3 in that one. And then had their worst event was MW3 at COD Champs, placing top 6. So for you to be in a dominant team and your worst placing is top 6, that's freaking great, man. Like, come on. And then turn around, just a month later and win the Esports World Cup? I say give this roster one more chance together. And if they win the Call of Duty World Championship next season in the Black Ops 6, tournaments, I think this will be the greatest roster ever outside of that Optic Gaming roster back in 2017 when they won Infinite Warfare in the CWL. That's just my opinion only. And Simp would get his third ring. I think Abizi will. Yeah, Abizi will get his third ring as well. Cell, I think this will be it'll be his second. I know for sure. Because he wasn't part of the, I forget the organization's name during the Black Ops 4 season. Or Black Ops 5. Yeah, no, Black Ops 4 season right there. But still, anyways, it's going to be one of the greatest teams. I feel like if you stick to this roster going into Black Ops 6. That's just my opinion right there. So guys, what do you think? Do you think Atlanta FaZe needs to make that roster change after the Esports World Cup? Or do you think they need to stick with this roster and go into the Black Ops 6 season and dominate things like they did during EWC? Let me know on Twitter or leave a comment in the comment section on Spotify, because Spotify does have a new platform where you can comment on that podcast. So it would mean a lot to me if you can comment with your thoughts and opinions on today's topics. But guys, I sure hope you did enjoy. If you did, make sure to like button wherever you are listening from, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your preferred podcast. But good Morgan, we'll catch you all later. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this Belly Up Sports Podcast Network product. Some said we go belly up, so we made it our name, and we're still here.